and welcome to the Coaching Crowd podcast with me, Jo Wheatley, and my friend and co-host Zoe Hawkins.
Hi everybody, we are here this week with an episode on money mindset for coaches, which was a request from one of the coaches in our business lounge, and also something that we know that many coaches discover, I think, when they step out into the world of either self-employment or building a business. So we wanted to talk about money mindset, kind of how it shows up, what it is, how it might sabotage you as a coach, and also some things around what you can do to nurture your money mindset. So where would you begin, Jo?
I think money mindset can hit you like a sledgehammer when you start a coaching business. I think it can, you're faced with having to invest in yourself financially. You probably left a full-time, well-paid job, being an expert, well-paid. You may have different dynamics in your home environment. You may live on your own and you provide for yourself. You might have a role in terms of contributing to a family. You don't necessarily have a guaranteed income that you're stepping into, and that can be a trigger. And it can also affect you further down the line in your business. So it can prevent you from outsourcing things. It can prevent you, for example, from bringing on a VA, which can slow the growth of your business. When you get to the point of being very successful in your business, you may find a real discomfort with having a level of financial abundance, and you may self-sabotage in some way around that. So I think whatever stage of your business, money mindset is work that you'll need to do in order to not only be financially successful, but to be able to enjoy where you're at in your business as well.
It's very multi-layered, I think, money mindset. I remember stepping out of that corporate career and, very much an equal with my husband in terms of our earnings. And I'd made the decision to step away, and I just had a baby. So I'd also just gone through a transition prior to the business of not being an equal financially with my husband. At the time, I worked for an organization that didn't have a maternity package, so I was on statutory maternity pay, and coming from my earnings to statutory maternity pay, and I was a fiercely independent person back then. And I have a money story about how I grew up. It wasn't very financially abundant, so I'd carried some of that into my career with the need to be independent and look after myself and all of that. And I think my first meeting with my money mindset was actually on that maternity leave and being dependent upon my husband, which was uncomfortable. And that was where I was like, what's this about? What's this thing that I'm experiencing? And my journey with money mindset has always been there in different shapes and forms, as you've described. So money mindset can be lots of bundles and clusters of essentially what are beliefs about financial topics. So it might be about what you can or can't charge for a coaching session. It might be about what is okay or not okay to earn, which is slightly different. Charging is putting it out there, earning is what you receive. It might be about what you think is okay that other people do. But all of these things can really affect the actions that you take in your coaching business. And so money mindset and the work that you do on yourself as you continue through business is an influencer on the results that you will achieve as a coach, either in the income that you get because of the prices that you're setting, or in the how courageous and brave you're willing to be with putting yourself out there. Now, we know, working with the coaches in our business lounge and also from our own experience, that it might be your money mindset that actually holds you back from being visible. Like, I don't want anybody to see what I'm charging. They might look at me and think, what on earth is she doing thinking that she can charge those prices for that coaching package? And so therefore you hide and you don't show up and be visible. So even if it's not directly about money mindset, it can also be a backdoor that comes to sort of trip you up sometimes as well.
You may feel guilty for charging a certain amount of money. So, depending on how you grew up, as you mentioned, Zoe, and, whether you felt that you grew up in a household that didn't have much money, and then now find yourself in a position where you're in a profession and you've got the experience and the expertise and you add the value. So the amount that you would charge, and you may be very successful, but you still might feel guilty or feel shame for that. And actually, you might not want people to see what you're charging, because you might not want family members to see what you're charging, as an example. But it might also be that you choose not to charge very much because that fits with your values, and you don't want people to think that you're a worse coach as a result of the figure that you put on your coaching, which is what you're comfortable charging and want to be charging, to be able to fit into that. I think for me, my money story, like the anchor in my mind, is my dad sitting with a spreadsheet at the dining room table, marking out every penny and knowing where it is. And I suppose it always being talked about, and it does still influence my, I see bits of it in my kind of internal narrative, or the things that I say as well. But even after uni, living on a student budget, eating the cheapest bread, etc., etc. You and I have talked about, haven't we? Because we met shortly after we'd got our degree. We met when we were doing our masters, and for years we still had a student mindset, which is part reality, because you're still we're still at the very beginning of like our earning potential. But you may also have, some people like to invest money at sort of an even amount at all times. Whereas other people like to save up and then make a big purchase or a big investment. And I think what we're saying is, in a business sense, is just being awareness is the first step. So awareness of what is your money story, and then associated to that, what are the beliefs that you may have picked up along the way? Then, are those beliefs yours, or were they somebody else's that you may have collected on the way? And fitting that together with what is your current reality. So is that relevant to where I am at now in my life? How will that help me, or will it hinder me? How do my beliefs relate to my values? And really doing, some self-coaching is maybe the first place to start with. And it may be that you can do the work on your own. It might be that you would choose to work on that with a coach to be able to get you to the point where you might have a brilliant strategic mind, but you find yourself holding back or not taking those steps forward because of the money narrative that you have.
I think that piece that you mentioned, like, what is your money story? You have to know that as a coach, like stepping into the world where you are going to be putting a price on your services. In many ways, you're kind of saying, this is what I'm worth. So if you have self-worth challenges, you're going to find it hard to price that anyway. But if you have money mindset challenges, you're going to find it hard to price. So really starting with, what is my money story? And the way that I've done this before is literally a timeline. So from birth to today, and plotting along that all of the events and situations related to money. And on mine, there was some family dynamics about money. There was how I grew up related to money. As you've described there was the university days. There was, a period of who I met and the money that they had and how I may have felt, whether I felt like I belonged or didn't belong, related to their level of wealth, so much stuff. And then when I'm able to plot all of that down, and then I can zoom up above it and start to look at what's the theme here that's coming up, and how is that showing up today in terms of the decisions that I'm making or not making related to my business. And I think money mindset is mindset work, the same as it is other work. You need to be able to see something in order to change it. And you need to be able to want for something else once you've seen it. And so then you are able to set goals around what's the experience that you want to have with money? How do you want to feel about money? What's going to serve you? what beliefs are fundamentally holding you back and which are okay and you can leave alone. And I think when you start to develop your list, if you like, or portfolio of what's the work that I need to do, then you can start to tend to those one at a time in terms of goals. And for me, there were and still are a number of money beliefs that held me back. Today, I would say those money beliefs will emerge depending on the phase of business that I enter in. So I discover new ones with every sort of step of of growth, I suppose, that I take both personally and professionally. And I think that's really important to know, that just because you work on a belief today, it doesn't mean it's gone. It doesn't mean that if it comes up again that you failed. It's just that that belief hasn't yet aired itself within the context that you exist within today. So have that awareness that if you do the work today, you probably will need to revisit it as you move into a different phase of growth, and that's okay, because you have all of the tools and resources that you need in coaching to be able to access the support that you need, either, as you said, Jo, through self-coaching or working with somebody who can help you.
I'd encourage you to think about, like, what is the image that comes into your mind just when you think about money? So when we say the word money, what is it you see? Do you see an image of stacked up dollars, for example? Do you see yourself flying first class? Do you see a money box? Like, what is it? And what are the thoughts and the feelings that come to mind from that image? Because that's going to give you information to be able to look at. When you think about your coaching business, where does your money mindset really peak? Where does it show up? Is it around what you charge? Because we hear that a lot, don't we, from coaches, get tying themselves in absolute knots about what to charge, worried about charging the right or the wrong amount, scared about putting it on a website, letting people know. Do you notice yourself having beliefs which is that I'm scared, or not necessarily beliefs, but when you really think about it, do you have a belief which is, I want to be successful in my business and I want to be rewarded well for it, and I want to earn more money than I was earning in my previous job, but do you also then have a worry which is, but then if I do earn more money, what if I then stop earning that much money? Like, is there a belief that there's a finite amount of money that you can earn, so that, almost like if you do well, then you won't, and so there's a protection that comes in that can happen for some people?
It can also be chasing the money, right? And that can bring an unhelpful energy, because you can become really attached to the outcomes. So you might have an arbitrary goal in your head, and I don't know, let's just say 6 figures, right? We see a lot of like, build a 6-figure coaching business. That's what you need to do, which is a very stretching goal in itself if you're starting from zero. But you can be so attached to this 6-figure thing that you're blinded at everything else that might be going on in your life, and so you neglect the other things in your life. So that can be a money mindset challenge to deal with. You might think that your success is tied to how much you earn. So do you have an identity around, I'm only a successful coach if I'm earning X, Y, or Z? Because that's not going to help you either, because you'll feel like an imposter all the time. You're trying to strive for this arbitrary goal that you might have set yourself. So money mindset is a very real thing, I think, when you come into coaching. And it's often new, because when you're employed, you don't really have to think too much about money mindset. It's somebody else's business that you're working for. The paycheck arrives in your account. Yes, you might have goals around climbing the ladder, but you're a bit more focused on, do I enjoy this job or do I not enjoy this job? I still had financial goals. I remember in my years post uni, I was like, I want to be earning an X amount by X age. So that's what that was about. And I still have financial goals today, but they're different. I'm not attached to the outcome. The financial goals are there as a measure of the effort that I put into the business, of the return that I'm looking for, of the how worthwhile is this to me. And it's more around, what will those financial goals enable me to feel and experience and achieve in my life. It's not, I have to have that or else. So there's a different energy attached to my financial goals today. Whereas I think before I did any mindset work, it was much more about failure and success. If I'm not earning a certain amount by a certain age, then I am what, insert adjective, failing, or, so really bringing curiosity to your mindset and examining what's going on is the first step.
I don't think it's just you as a coach and your money mindset that's relevant. I think it's what you assume is the money mindset of your ideal clients. If you are, if you're in a relationship with a significant other, then it may also be about their money mindset. They may be the person that you talk to about this idea of having a coaching business, or maybe you've got a coaching business and it's about the decisions that you make, and they can be things like paying someone to do your branding. Is that an investment decision that is encouraged or not? We've talked obviously about wider family, and depending on the closeness of your relationship, the extent to which you're influenced by those. I think also it can be around, you might be building your business is growing well, so you feel successful, but when you think about the financial position of other people that or socialize with, all of a sudden your enthusiasm and how you perceive yourself in your business kind of drains away, which could then influence the extent to which you decide to put yourself out there. And you have to make decisions, I think, early on around, let's say if you were to run a group program, what do you do if you set a financial target and you don't hit, and it doesn't make that target? Do you pull the program? How does your money mindset influence the decisions that you make? Now, if you pull it, you don't get the testimonials, you don't get the experience. Maybe that is the right thing to do, but maybe it's not. But do you want to make that decision from a position of looking through all of the lenses, rather than it being a compulsion because of a belief that actually is not serving you well? So is it a limiting belief or an empowering belief that you have around money? And even just very simply starting out just to explore, what are the limiting beliefs I have about money and about my business, and what are the empowering beliefs? What are the beliefs that I think are going to really enable me to achieve what I want to in this business and in my life?
And I think it's just worth also inquiring, like, what is the relationship I have with money? Like, if money was a being, how would I be treating it, talking to it, experiencing it? Are they my friend? Is it something I'm repelling? And just really get curious and start to nurture the relationship into something that you want it to be. And often at the core of all this money mindset work is emotion, isn't it? It's often fear or shame or guilt, as you've said. And so from a coaching perspective, you talked about beliefs, you can also take it from the angle of emotions. Like, having an emotional experience related to money doesn't have to stop you taking actions and decisions if you have the strategies to be able to work through it. So I do remember when I launched my first coaching program, like course and group coaching, pricing that and then launching it to the world, I was full of all the emotions, like a doubt, is this the right price? Is it too expensive? What are people going to think? Fear around being so visible with that, the like guilt and shame around selling like a program. I mean, the program was incredibly valuable. I knew that, but I still felt guilt and shame about offering it to people. Today, I would handle that experience very, very differently, because I would be able to inquire into that. Okay, right, I'm feeling some guilt. What's that about? What's going on there? What do I need in order to release that? Taking our emotions coaching approach to that experience to be able to have a different, more liberating experience that's going to enable me to more easily take those actions. And I think when you do that, let's say you're selling something and you reach the pitch in your webinar or program or whatever it is, or on a call, if you're carrying the guilt and the shame into that conversation, that energy is going to come through in that conversation. Whereas if you are in alignment with your offer and you feel really good about the value of your program and your prices, when you come to share that energy is going to come through. And there is a silent communication that happens energetically between, you know, coach and prospective client, or human to human, if you like. So it is important that you do that work.
And we're not talking about toxic positivity related to money, you know, that's going to end, you know, you make all of these decisions and but then you end up, you know, in debt or et cetera, et cetera. It's just about being able to be in tune with your practical situation, but also having conversations with other people, because, you know, like in the business lounge, people might be holding back from getting branding photos, for example, and other people might be able to see that really is a missing piece in terms of how you're presenting yourself to others. And yes, it's going to cost X amount, and you can earn that money through doing X, Y, or Z. But if there's a money story in there, which is, you know, and it probably isn't just a money story, I think is the other thing to say. Yeah. It probably is related to other things. It might be around, you know, a belief that I'm not attractive and therefore I should not have branding photos done. It could be anything like that. But if that is the missing piece and it genuinely is related to an unhelpful belief that was created a very long time ago, then we're saying at least explore it and identify it. From a practical point of view, if you're not in a position financially to do those things, it's about making the plan to be able to do that, rather than thinking, well, I don't deserve, this business is me and I shouldn't spend that money on me. You know, I should spend that money on others, or undercharging, which lots of people do, because they don't feel confident to attach a certain figure to the work that they're doing, even though the value of it, you know, is in excess of that. So it's trying to find that balance and just making sure that the decisions that you are making are taking account of all of your current reality.
Absolutely. And I think we experience the coaching industry as very positive, like the people that we engage with. There is a side to the online industry where people can and may prey on your money mindset and say, oh, you're not doing that because of your money mindset. And I think that's the piece that you're saying there, Jo, is don't let anybody tell you that your money mindset is a problem. Like discover that and decide what you want to do with that. Like, how is that influencing you and your experience? So being able to identify where the tension is in your business and with yourself, where are you feeling resistance, and lean into to those moments to start to build your own awareness of what is happening. And of course, you know, coaches are well positioned to be able to support you with that level of work.
One's just popped into my mind here, which is, do you have a belief that everything you buy should be a bargain? Or do you believe, like we brought up with, like, I should get the cheapest version, you know, which is maybe related to a bargain? And that to me might be an example of, like, if that's something you always feel, it's a compulsion, it's an automatic thinking behavior, then that might be a piece of money mindset that you might want to do, because if it's happening every time, that isn't necessarily the best decision for your business. And I was thinking about when we reached that point, because we used to do everything ourselves, and definitely there would be some of that going on, and that, you know, might have a number of different factors into it. You might also have a money mindset which is, I ought to just get the very best, and the very best means the most expensive, and until I'm at that point I'm not successful, or that's just what I should do, or I should be seen to do that, without actually checking, is that the best thing for my business? Does it have all of the features that I need to have? So again, it's about, you know, coming back to that. But if any of those things resonate with you, what we're talking about is if you find yourself with compulsive inner thoughts that are generically applied across your business, rather than coming back to, what do I need? What can I afford? Even if it's sometimes maybe it's a stretch, but is that investment going to return? And when we were at that point where we were like, actually, our business deserves us to invest in it, and we're going to find, for example, you know, a designer that so that somebody else has used, so we have like a testimonial of it. We like the style that they have. They can meet the time scale that we need, etc., etc. And yes, we didn't go for the cheapest option with that, but that was the best thing for our business at that time, and has had a huge impact on where we are today.
Yeah, when we make decisions from our rational, logical, resourceful self, we can bypass that money mindset gremlin. Even if we know that it exists, we can center ourselves to be able to make those decisions. And I think that's what we're saying, is that you don't have to fix everything that you think is broken in relation to money mindset. You need to be able to access your resourceful self to be able to make the best decisions. And sometimes that might be about processing the emotions. And if that's something that you're interested in learning more about, we've got the Emotions Coaching Practitioner Program, which will support you with that, and also obviously be aware of the coaches in your network that might be able to support you, even in peer-to-peer discussions, to just discover what's in my money story, and how is that influencing and potentially sabotaging the work that I'm doing here. And you can join our community in the Business Lounge, where there are also lots of resources around pricing and the more strategic side of things that can help you with accessing that center to be able to make decisions from an educated place.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about one of our Business Lounge members who said that as a result of attending one of the pricing or watching one of the pricing masterclasses, they increased their prices, which actually has paid for their annual Business Lounge subscription. So that was a great outcome for them.
Yeah. So we'll see you again next week.